I'm back with Joy Loverde, and she is the author of The Complete Elder Care Planner and Who Will Take Care of Me When I'm Old. And it's just an authority on the aging process. So you have a saying, and I love this for a lot of different reasons, which I'll explain after you do your thing. And that is, you say, just shoot me is not a plan. And I laugh about that only because I talk about people who retire with no plan in sight and then they're miserable because they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do with their day. They say, how did I get everything done when I was working when I can't get anything done now that I'm retired? So I agree with you, but give me your whole philosophy on this. Just shoot me is not a plan.
Well, yeah, talking about um, the the way we want things to be in our lives. People, I think, don't believe that they have any control or much control over what happens. And so that's the just shoot me plan. So they do nothing, and then when things are really bad, they are throw their hands up and say, well, what can I do now? So to not be in that situation means just finding the courage to do just one thing, and you decide. People need to decide for themselves what they are willing to face reality. What's the reality? One little thing that they can do, and go from there. Dip your toe in the water. So we're talking the things that people don't want to talk about, of course, are end of life, running out of money, becoming a widow or widower. I mean, these are tough things. So doing nothing is I've seen it both ways, and doing nothing is worse.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you talk about those kinds of things, I know I felt that same way. I didn't want to talk about uh, uh, what was going to happen at the end, but I knew I was smart enough to know that I had to have a will. So my husband and I went and we did have our wills drawn, and we did it for, protection because there was a lot of property involved and so forth and so on. And interestingly, over the years, those situations changed, but basically the will did not change. As a matter of fact, we even in our will had set up guardians for the kids because they were still minors when we put the will together. And of course, that all changed. But I think it's interesting that even people who are, you can talk about someone who may not be aware of these things, but highly educated, well-heeled people still don't necessarily plan. And I wondered if you found any differences in people who were in different income stratuses or educational levels and that kind of thing.
Gail, I haven't. But I will tell you, I have found that more women plan than men because the expectation is we will take care of them. So that is the only difference that I have noticed. Many people in my audiences, whether they're virtual or in person, it's 75% women and their daughters, and we are the caregivers of the world, right? So that's the big differentiator I have seen. Now, many men have commented to me that they're reading my book, or they have the nature of planning, that's their nature, but not so many.
Well, but I think that's also because women know that they live longer than men in normal circumstances. And so that's why, we laugh. My son's husband is in an assisted living facility, and he already has a girlfriend. And
Yeah.
He's 90. But there are so many more women in these facilities than men that the men have such a great expectation, and
Yeah.
not even an expectation, but just a situation where they're able to be the target of so much attention. So I think this has a lot to do with it too. What have you found in the older population about second marriages? Anything interesting happening there?
Get your paperwork in order.
Ah,
Absolutely. This is when the legal documents really come into play. You never know what's going to happen if you don't have everything in writing. We may be adults, but we're always we're always the child in our parents' eyes, and vice versa. We look at our parents. So if there is a second marriage as children, we look at that person who's the new person coming in and wonder all kinds of things. So this is just a real volatile time for everyone involved. So that's when all the legal documents come into play, and they all have to be flushed out. I'll tell you a story that was in our family. My aunt moved in with her boyfriend. These are two people in their 70s, late 70s, and it was his home, and we didn't know much about any of that, but we knew they were terribly happy, and they were the cutest couple in the world. Well, anyway, unfortunately, when he died, on the day of his funeral, the children surrounded my aunt and said, "You have 24 hours to get out of our house."
what? Can they legally do that? I mean, if someone's been
When,
married.
well, this is why I said, whose house was it? They never talked about it. My aunt and her friend never talked about it. No, there were no legal papers. So I'm just demonstrating the consequence of no legal documents and not talking about things.
Yeah,
And
what could have happened is, just as an aside, to make everyone happy, it could have been, you will reside in this house as long as you live, and once you pass away, it reverts to my children, a kind of thing, which would have protected her and protected them. But people don't think that far ahead, and many times, there's a conflict, not only. Well, there's just a conflict between the children because they feel like this person is a gold digger, and they're not. They're just looking to be happy. But that is a situation. And you're not even talking about a prenup. You're talking about just legal documents.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, wow. Now
Yeah,
you make,
eye-opening.
yeah, very, very. And you make a couple of other points which I think are important. You say that's 59%, and this is not your numbers, this is a Gallup poll. 59% of the 73 million millennials are single and have never married. And that 1 in 3 baby boomers is either separated, divorced, widowed, or never married. And this is changing how people are living their later lives. So how is that influencing things?
Well, one of the first places that it shows up is where we're living. So imagine that you're living now with a partner, only that partner goes away for any number of reasons. So now you're aging solo. In the process of aging solo, you become the CEO of your immediate surroundings, and now you're in charge of everything. And the decision making, the people who come and go, the house is aging at the same time. You have to deal with the possibility of solitary confinement. I mean, how interactive are you with the outdoors? And so many elephants in the room regarding where we live and aging solo. So I'm going to add one more thing to that, and that is the fact that we are living in a time of a caregiver shortage. So if people think that they're going to pick up the phone and call Jane's home care agency and Jane says, "Yeah, I'll have somebody come right over," they could be sadly mistaken.
Interesting. My son is dying to get me out to California, and I did have homes in California, which I no longer have because we've sold them. But he wants me out there with him, and of course I can't get there right now because I'm immune compromised and can't get on a plane. And the interesting thing is, I had this huge home, about 6,000 square feet, and it was on the water. Beautiful, beautiful home, but it was a huge upkeep. And once my husband passed away, I lived in it for 5 years. And I was living there because my son was going to come and live there with me. And then he moved. And I thought, well, this is a huge expense. And it's me and my dog and 2 cats. And it's just too big for us. So I moved into an apartment for a year to make the transition. And I've been in the same apartment now for 7 years. And my son said, Mom, I don't think you really want to come to California. I said, well, it's not that, but, and this is the two main things, which is number one, I like the doctors that I have here, which he certainly understood. And the fact that I have a cat that I would not bring to a nice, new, clean place because he does not always cooperate where he's supposed to. So the thing is that there are so many different circumstances that involve, and I love what you say, aging solo. I've not really heard that term plays that way. And aging solo is so true. And people age differently. There are people in their 90s who are living independently and are quite fine. And some of them even go to work every day. And then there are people in their 60s and 70s that are having a hard time of it. And it's interesting. I have a friend who husband has MS and she has lots of medical problems, and he's falling a great deal, and now he's living in a wheelchair. And I said, and they really don't want to have home health care workers. And I said, well, what about when it gets just impossible for you, putting him in an assisted living facility? And she said, no, if he can't be here, we will go together. And I just can't believe that philosophy. Have you heard that before?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not uncommon. What you're describing, I'm so glad you're describing this, because I'm hoping that your listeners are getting the idea that aging is a moving target. And all of the things that I bring up in the book require us to take a look at them from the beginning stage, but then know that no plans are set in place. We must be flexible. We must be open-minded. I talk a lot about the need to think critically. There's a strategic thinking philosophy on how we can negotiate every moving target that comes our way, and that this is a process that never ends.
Yeah, and that's the sad part of it, because we see people who have been, so vital and so active and so involved in all of their life, and then all of a sudden, something changes, and some people are able to cope with it, and some people are not. People look at me because I am immune compromised. I'm on radiation and chemo now. I've had breast cancer 4 times. I've had 16 surgeries, but I keep going no matter what. But because it's not in my cards to say, oh, just give up and sit down, No. So, there are things I may have to take 30 minutes and just sit down and breathe for a while, or I may have to do certain things. But, no one who meets me would ever have a clue. So, the whole point of looking at this elder care issue is, and I have to say, and I have to be honest, Joy, when I was 20, 30, 40, even 50, and I would even say 60, and I had gone through at that point 2 or 3 cases, I think, of breast cancer and all these surgeries, I still never thought about my mortality. Now, I will tell you, the first time I was diagnosed, I had only one question for the doctor, because I was 49 years old and I was absolutely knocked off my socks because I was so healthy and I was a workout person and all of that. And I only said one question to him: am I going to die? And he said, no. And for me, that was it. And I started fighting, and that was all there was. But, I really didn't think about it until probably maybe 15 years ago, when I realized my husband was sick. He wasn't taking care of himself. I had the husband that when I bought him everything that he was supposed to eat, he'd go to the store just to get ice cream, and he was diabetic. And I just kind of gave up trying to control it, because I wasn't home 24/7. And if it wasn't there, he would go and get it. So, it took that long, almost like a timber hitting me over the head, to say, these are things we need to look at and do. And that's not an easy place to get to.
You're such a role model, Gayle. I can't tell you. You've mentioned things that would have knocked people off their chair a long time ago. I mean, just one thing after another after another. You're not a survivor. You are a thriver. You're someone that says when they hear "I'm not done yet," like the doctor told you, you are so not done yet, and you're an incredible role model for the rest of us. But this is unique to you, and all we can do, like you said, everyone has their own journey. No, none of us age is the same. Well, we must continuously, women like us must continuously be role models, because we can't tell anybody what to do. We can't tell our husbands not to go get ice cream. But what we can do is just be there and be a role model for what it means to be alive, no matter what. And that's who you are. And
yeah, that's really true, because we really enjoyed each other. And when we went to the movies on a Sunday, rather than how we used to do it, I would drive and drop him off at the theater, then go park the car, then come back to the theater, and we would see the movie, and then and then we'd go out to dinner right next door to the theater, and then I would go get the car, and I would come back and pick him up. And that's kind of how we did it. We adjusted, but we enjoyed each other to the very end, which was what was important. However, I'm sure there are lots of other issues that we haven't talked about, Joy, that you want to bring up. So what are some of the things that we haven't mentioned that you think are very important?
You started to talk about introverts, and I respect that, because this is not easy. You and I may be outgoing, but many people may not. And so what I like to talk about, what we need to bring into the room, is the concept of loneliness and isolation. And perhaps people like you and me are part of the solution to that. You mentioned how your neighbor says, would you like, your BLT is ready, or food. I am Italian. Food is family, food is love, food is community. And the best thing we can do for each other is do what I call, or become a part of my movement, which the book has started, and it's called Let's Eat Together Movement. Everybody can do it, rich or poor, young and old, to invite someone to eat with us, even if it's a virtual sharing a meal online. Or in my case, I too live in an apartment building where I'll sit outside in the hallway and my friend will be inside in her room, at least 6 feet apart, right? And we're having dinner together, and I'm just sitting in the hallway, and we are having a ball. So
you talk about being Italian. Look at the Italians who go out on their balconies every night and toast wine and cheese and bread, sing, and they're having a fantastic time.
That's right. This is in our blood. It's in our culture. So we need to talk about loneliness and isolation. But there's one other thing I want to talk about, and it has to do with that as well. And it has to do with the concept of quarantining and the possibility that we are going to be alone. We are all alone in our thoughts when we go to bed at night. No one's in our head but us, right? And I think that there are well-intended distractions, like watching videos and doing Zoom meetings. Those are good, but only up until the point that at the end of the day, we are alone with our thoughts. And what we must do is begin the process of dealing with that. Aloneness is not a choice for many solo agers. Our mental well-being is at risk. So we can begin the process of, this is more of a spiritual journey now, when we're talking to ourselves and we're paying attention to what we're saying. We need new coping skills for truly being alone, and the possibility of reframing being alone. What does that mean? Let me give you an example. When I was my mom's caregiver, and I would come into the room, and my mom's routine would be wake up, put the coffee on, turn on the television. The television stays on all day. She turns it off at night and goes to bed. And I asked my mom a lot. I said, "Are you lonely?" And she said, "No, I'm not." And I said, "Well, you just sit here alone all day long." And she said, "I like myself. I like how things are."
Yeah.
And so I didn't know this, but my mom was teaching me how to be alone, and we all need to learn how to do that.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really important for people at this point is to have a pet. My two cats keep me really together. I mean, I'm fine because I talk to people all day online and on Zoom calls and so forth. But, they drive me crazy, but they also are great companions. And people are adopting pets during this time. And I just hope they keep these pets when things go back to normal. And they're also talking about how we have to learn, our pets have got to learn that we are not going to be home all the time. I mean, I used to travel 3, 4, 5 times a month, on the road. And so they got used to that. And now I've been home for 5 months and they're used to that. So it's kind of going to be kind of interesting how this all happens. But we're at the end of our show, Joy. So let's find out, how can they get your book? How can they find out where you are? Do you have a gift that you'd like to offer? Whatever you want to tell our people. This is your time to do your commercial.
Okay, well, my commercial is really simple. I have a website. If you go to my website, you will find loads of articles, blogs, videos, 30 years worth for the complete elder care planner for if you're a family care partner or who will take care of me when I'm old. My website is elderindustry.com. Just go there. And you're not alone. There's so much available to you. And you could get my book on Amazon or anywhere you could order it from any bookstore.
Fantastic. So if you want to find out more about Joy, remember her website is elderindustry.com. And you can get her books on Amazon or anywhere else that sells books, like I assume Barnes and Nobles and so
Yep.
forth.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing is, this woman is a wealth of information. And for those of you who are in the elder care bracket, for those of you who are, baby boomers and need to plan for your future and are also caring for your parents, or for the millennials out there who think nothing's ever going to happen to them because they're too young and they're too healthy, which we know is not always the case. This is the place you need to go. And as Joy said, and I think this is very, very important, even if they're not in your world now, have them on a list that someone can get to if they need them. And that's your certified financial planner, your elder care attorney, and someone who can be your geriatric case manager. All of these things are so very important. So we have about 2 minutes left, Joy. What have we not talked about that you think it's important for our audience to hear?
Just to be kind to yourself. One of the things that we'll find ourselves a lot, at least in the COVID world, is how we talk to ourselves. Self-talk is what I have discovered is it's like thinking out loud. Our private speech. How are we talking with ourselves? Be kind to yourself and realize that, I'm hearing from my friends a lot, oh my gosh, I can't think, I can't concentrate, I can't do this, I can't do, there's a lot of I can't. So I refer back to you, Gayle, and your positiveness that comes through loud and clear, your ability to be resilient, your ability to think through, and your ability to love. It's so clear. You'll never be alone, Gayle. Never.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Joy. And I hope, listeners, you've had a wonderful time listening to Joy Loverde. I mean, she is, just as I said, a wealth of information. Thank you so much for being with us, Joy. And keep on trucking. That's what we need to do.
I will. Thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.